Do I just look at you the whole time?
You can look wherever you want, but obviously I'd like you to pay more attention to me.
Got it.
I'm sassy today, guys. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Ritual Podcast. I'm your host, Eva. This is the podcast that hosts conversations about age, beauty, and identity. In a world where the pressure to conform rises every day, this is your dose of perfection correction. And fresh off the competition trail, we have Brooke Hackett, bodybuilder, professional bodybuilder. I'm gonna contain my excitement for literally 0.5 seconds to have this conversation. She just finished the Ben Weider bodybuilding competition.
Yes.
Tell me everything.
So Ben Weider is a special competition because so you don't know anything about bodybuilding. So
Zero. Start me off.
There's the amateur league, and then if you win a competition or two competitions there, you have to do a regional show, and then it qualifies you for nationals. And if you win nationals, then you win your pro card. So then you no longer compete amateurly, you compete in the pro league.
So this is like a PGA card.
Sure, I don't even know what that is.
Like golfers have like a professional,
yes,
they play until they get their professional card. So bodybuilders do that too.
Yeah, much like I don't know, soccer players or boxers. Like you box amateurly and then you go pro if you get X amount of stats or whatever.
Okay.
So I'm in the IFBB, so that's like the biggest federation for bodybuilding, and Ben Weider's is a natural show. So it's a tested show, which means that I don't do steroids. I've never done steroids, and anybody that competes at the Ben Weider's is natural also. So that's a cool thing about the Ben Weider's show is that it's a natural show.
It's funny that you started off right there because this is a question I was going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
It's because in my world, like a way that you can enhance is like hair extensions, or you could get lip filler,
mm-hmm. or
you could do Botox, right? But in your world, you do steroids.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the way that you up the enhancement.
Yeah, it's more unique to not do steroids than it is to do them.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a very big thing in bodybuilding. I mean, I think actually like in the fitness culture in general, even people that don't compete do steroids.
I was watching a lot of videos in preparation for this conversation, and I noticed that there were so many of these interview-style pop-ups in gyms where they would just go to regular people lifting and ask them,
natty or not.
That?
Yeah.
Or, have you ever thought about doing it? And would you do it?
Mm-hmm.
And there was they didn't do an actual poll with numbers, but to me it felt like people were leaning towards, I've at least thought about it if I'm not already doing it. And that's just like regular guys.
Yeah.
And girls.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very tempting because it kind of expedites the process. It'll make you, in bodybuilding terms, you can just build a lot more muscle, a lot more quickly. You can recover more quickly, so then you can lift harder. You can lift heavier. So it is tempting. I've thought about it numerous times because it would definitely make me a better competitor. But it's just not in my path right now. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider because it changes you as a woman. It can change your voice. It can change like your physical appearance. It can make your jawline you get more masculine.
But is that because of muscle? Like, does it build muscle in your jaw, and that's why it changes your jawline?
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't know much about steroids, but I do know that on like a cellular level, it changes your hormones.
Whoa, permanently.
Yeah, there's permanent stuff that goes on.
So it's a big decision.
Huge decision that I don't think people take enough consideration on, because people just kind of jump into steroids because they think it's it's the answer, but they haven't even built a solid foundation of muscle. They don't even lift correctly. They don't have their diet on point, and then they're like, oh, steroids will give me the physique I want, and it's just not true.
So they haven't reached their quote-unquote natural potential threshold, and they're immediately jumping into enhancements.
In my opinion, yes. And what sucks is I'm a coach for women in bodybuilding. I coach women, but I also coach like lifestyle or like my mom or moms, anyone.
Like longevity and strength and
yes,
the good, like the good like life endurance kind of a thing.
Yeah.
For me, especially doing hair, I have to work out.
Mm-hmm.
My body would be broken if I didn't. And that was something that actually got me into working out, is because I didn't realize I needed my core. I needed all that posture all day, like 10 hours. And it wasn't just going to happen from working. I had to go and start taking yoga and start lifting weights.
Yeah, I bet your traps are like on fire all the time with your arms up.
Girl, if I could Botox them permanently down, please relax.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, so I hop on calls with women to, they'll apply on my website, and then I'll hop on a call with them, see if it's a good fit. And the amount of conversations I've had with women that say, I used to be with a coach and they would not allow me to be on their team without doing steroids.
No way.
And they had just started bodybuilding or even lifting a year. I've been lifting since I was 13, and so that frustrates me a lot. So I think people are also really just misguided and lack the knowledge on, what they're embarking on, because it is permanent. You're going to go through permanent changes, and yeah.
I think that is such a valid thing to say, because to be perfectly honest, and I say it without any hard feelings, I really know nothing about working out and nutrition. It's something that I defer to someone who is way better at it than me. I usually you have a coach, or you see a doctor for testing about your food, or you have a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's so much information out there that if you don't know what you're doing, you don't have a basis, you're not studying it, you're lost.
Yeah. I wouldn't try to do my own hair.
Right.
You got to go to someone.
Right.
Get
in the weeds real easy.
Yeah.
So I want to know this. First of all, before I get into a little bit about how you prepare for your competitions and this and that, I'd love to know how you started.
Bodybuilding?
Yeah. You were lifting from 13?
Well, I played sports. I'm an athlete, so I got a full ride to play soccer in college. So my whole life has just been, thank you, it's just been sports. So actually my whole family has bodybuilt. My mom, my grandma, my dad, my uncles.
No way.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I always knew about bodybuilding, but it wasn't my vibe, because I was nah. There's different categories, and bikini category is very small muscularly. I would have to lose muscle to compete in that category, which I didn't want to do. And then the next category up was a category called figure, and that just wasn't my vibe. It's symmetrical from upper to lower. I feel like I'm saying all of these terms that you're like, what?
No, it makes sense, because I am perfectly proportioned. Okay. I don't have, it's not muscle. I haven't built perfectly proportioned muscle, but in terms of my measurements, I'm
symmetrical. So you do great in probably bikini or figure. Well, looking at you, it'd be bikini, but
really?
Yeah.
Why not figure?
I don't think you would want to do it. So figure, you would have to build a lot more density in your upper body. That's what made me kind of stray away from figure, because I don't like biceps. I don't like big triceps, big chest, big, I just don't like a big upper body on me. Bikini would have really cute shoulders, but then otherwise a more feminine, slim arm. So that's why I didn't want to do figure. If you wanted to build your biceps and your triceps and your chest,
because that's how you're building the proportion.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have those exact numbers top to bottom, like some ratio.
Essentially, like, you want your back to be symmetrical to your shoulders. You want a small waist, and then you want symmetrical lower body. So you'd have like nice quads, nice glutes. Whereas my category is called wellness, and we are not symmetrical.
Okay.
And that's like my physique naturally. So you're saying like you're naturally like symmetrical. I'm not. So I have a smaller upper body and then huge legs, huge legs and glutes. So wellness only came to the United States like 4 years ago. So
I've never heard of it, because I've heard those terms thrown around, and when I was researching, I've never heard wellness.
Wellness is probably going to be the biggest category for women, in my opinion, because you have to think about how you want to look off stage, because you're on stage for 5 seconds. So how do you want to look in your clothes? How do you want to feel when you're in your off season? That's something I thought about when considering categories. Figure, when you're in season, you're fairly lean. So like your muscle looks good, but when you're off season, you gain fat, and I wouldn't want to have that much density muscularly and then add fat over it. I just would feel like huge.
100%.
It
would feel, if it wasn't the body type you were after, it would feel uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what really veered me away. So wellness, you have that smaller upper body, but you get to train legs like crazy and glutes like crazy. And I love that.
I love that this is kind of opening up into a question of like what your view of beauty is, and it sounds like you got to take your view of what's beautiful, what feels great to you, and apply it to this art form.
Yeah, that is the beauty of bodybuilding, because you get to learn how to isolate your muscles, and you can literally customize your physique. You can work on whatever you want to do, as long as you have mind to muscle connection, and you learn how to build the neural connections between your mind and your body to build and isolate a certain muscle group. So if you really like big quads or big glutes, like, you can build that. If some women really do like big biceps and triceps and chest, and there you have the figure competitors. It's a beautiful category. It's just like not my favorite for me.
Yeah. Totally. I wonder about what you just said, that you can work on it and create any figure, because I felt like watching a lot of the videos of people that were striving for a certain look and really, really killing themselves to get it. I looked at them, and I'm not a professional, but I was like, I don't know if they could really achieve that body, like, realistically.
Mm-hmm.
There just seemed to be a bit of a gap between, an unfair gap, and it could be that we're pressured by society and social media to have a certain standard, and maybe people aren't looking at what they naturally bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there seemed to be a lot of variation, like what you can actually achieve.
Yeah. There's a few things that come to my mind, and number one is like patience. Especially if you are staying natural, you have to have patience, because growing muscle takes time. So if you do want to achieve a certain look, you have to understand that you're going to have to go through different phases, such as body recomposition, a muscle growth phase where you kind of like have to accept that you're going to be at a higher body fat percentage, and then you can go through a cut, and you kind of go through those phases as many times as you need to achieve the physique that you want. So you do have to have patience. And then also another thing that came to my mind is genetics. So you're genetically symmetrical. I'm genetically not symmetrical. So I think that that does play a huge part in building your physique. But I think people kind of know their genetics, and like they know if they want to grow. Usually it's bigger glutes. A lot of women come to me, they're like, I want to grow my butt. I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's going to take some people longer time than others.
I'm curious, what would a short period be if you could estimate, and what would a long period be, let's say, if someone was really dedicated?
Taking genetics into consideration.
Sure.
I've changed somebody's glutes in like 6 weeks.
Are you serious? That's fast.
Yeah. Most of the time, what I notice is people aren't training correctly, or they're not training the right way, and they don't know how to isolate their glutes. Like for me, for example, my quads used to take over all of the movements because they were stronger than my glutes. So you have to take a phase to where you're building those neural connections to make sure you can isolate the glutes. So once I can change that for somebody, they can change. Some people don't build muscle that fast. I've been with, like, some women have been with me for 2 years and we're still working on their glutes, you know?
And then, why is that? Why aren't they building muscle quickly?
It could be genetic. It could be they're not eating enough. Stuff like that. They're training. I always ask for like form videos and making sure that I'm kind of tracking their intensity, because that has a lot to do with it too. So I think like intensity in the gym, nutrition, it's also synergistic, you know?
That's interesting. You know, the variation in body types, we have like wispy thin girls, and personally myself, even at my thinnest, I've never been wispy. Like, I'm extremely strong, and I will always, I think, show up that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we're talking about genetics and like what you can actually do with you know, what someone has. In the hair world, I might be able to nudge it a little bit, like someone who has like fine hair that wants volume. I might be able to like play with that and, you know, change it to a point, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that like with a body? You know, like maximizing someone's genetics.
So let's say you're my client, and what would I do? Like, what are the first steps that I'm going to look at? Number one, I'm going to look at your diet, and I'm going to decipher if you're eating the right macros and calories for you. Oftentimes, people are eating way less calories than they think that they should. And then for women, a lot of times, we're not eating enough protein and we're not eating enough fat. So I would need to look at your macros. And then the next thing that I need to look at is your intensity in the gym. I need to see your form. I need to see if you're ego lifting, like, oh, I did 135 pounds on squat last week, and if I don't get that number again, I suck. Or like, what's the mental capacity here, and like, what's the narrative, like the self-narrative? That plays a really big role in my coaching too, because if you are always having this negative self-talk and you're going into the gym and it makes you feel like worse about yourself, we're gonna have to fix that too. So those are gonna be the 3 things I'm gonna focus on first, and then there's so many layers to each of those variables,
because you really can't have success without the right headspace.
No.
Wow. But that headspace, when it comes to how like our bodies are, especially, and honestly, I think men just don't say it as much, but I think they have the same talk about themselves too.
Totally.
But you know, how do you train that? That's really emotional.
It's emotional, and for me, I really encourage the women that I work with to get to the root. Like, what's the root of that? Like, why is this manifesting right now?
Maybe they just like drama, because that's mine. That's the root.
Maybe. Like, how did that stem though? Like, in childhood, did you really like drama? Were you always surrounded like?
Listen, that cardboard box, I like cut a hole on it, and I was on the TV. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, we need to entertain.
Yeah. I mean, I think your mental capacity plays a huge role in the way that not only you look at life, but the way that you look at yourself, the way that, I mean, I don't know, perception is reality. And like, how can I help you or help guide you to perceiving yourself in a way that is very loving, rather than your fitness journey deriving from hate or anxiety or stress.
What if you're too nice of a parent? Because I feel like on the flip side of that, like, I might be like, oh, treat yourself.
Like, too nice of a like, from my...
No, but, like, in a personal headspace, like, I think there's a part of me that, like, babies myself, right? If it came to, like, food, to be like, oh, have that chocolate.
Okay, yeah.
Not that chocolate's bad for you. None of the food is bad for you, but it sounds like when you are on this macro regimen, because it's all numbers, right? It's not emotional, like, you're trying to reach a goal. You have to really stick to those things. So when it comes to, like, the emotions and being able to apply discipline and apply patience and hitting those numbers, like, you also can't be too lax.
No. If you have a specific goal and you're coming to me to get to that goal, that's going to be my job to hold you accountable to that. So I would customize your meal plan according to, like, your goals and everything. And then if you're continually going off of that meal plan, I'm going to have to encourage you to understand why. Like, why are you, if you know that this is the fastest way to get to your goals, why are you going off of your plan? What can I do to help you? For my programs, I do holistic nutrition, but it's not like a bodybuilding diet. It sucks. But, like, my lifestyle clients, people, like, what I'm eating right now is amazing. It's holistic nutrition, whole food, but I can still program to what you like. If you like chocolate, I can fit that in your macros. So that's something that we would have to talk about. You know, what are you craving? Are you craving pizza? I'll put that in your plan, but I'm going to, like, have to fit it into your macros, and you're going to have to weigh it out and all that.
Right. I did that once. I did it in the pandemic because my dad, he weightlifted. My brother power lifts, does, like, you know, like 500, like, crazy lifts. So in my family, there's lots of, like, sports and, like, bodybuilding type of thing. And my dad is Polish. So, you know, in his days, he did it in Poland and Austria and then, like, a little here. But it was, like, cool. That Arnold body. Like, all lats.
Oh, yeah. Well, men.
Yeah.
They love their lats, their chest, their biceps.
They loves it. I can't do a pull-up. So, you know, I don't know where my lats are. But the point is that I was like, you know what? I think it would be fun to play around with this whole, like, bodybuilding thing because I wanted something to motivate me to stay active during, like, you know, nothing to do time. So, Anyway, I did the weighing thing. I think everybody found out how much peanut butter they were actually eating.
Oh, seriously. Like, your life is forever changed once you weigh stuff out. You're like, okay, so I thought
specifically peanut butter.
Yeah, no, yeah, seriously. I love peanut butter.
But I was like, I was like, I need a minute. I need to sit down on a chair. Because I was, like, eating half the jar, and I was like, that's a tablespoon.
Yeah.
Straight up, I would do the biggest scoop, and you don't, like...
Yeah.
How else would you know if you didn't weigh it? It's crazy.
Yeah, you think that you're eating, you know, normal diet, 2,000 calories, and then come to find out that you're, like, eating 4,000. And you're like, yes. Well, that's why. That answers a lot of my questions as to why I've not been getting to my goals.
Okay, but you know? I don't know about that whole, like, lean prep right before you go in for show. I've never done anything like that.
I don't like it.
How do you get yourself in the headspace? Because to be perfectly honest, I think I would completely buck at the idea and just be, like, self-sabotaging. And I understand you have a goal, you're trying to get somewhere. I've never been in that space. But tell me about that headspace.
Well, number one, like, you signed up for it. Like, why are you gonna sabotage yourself, you know? And you're going up there.
Number one.
In pretty much nothing, right? Like, you have this micro bikini on, and you're being judged literally on your physique. So.
Okay. All right, you know what? I'm starting to feel a fire. I'm starting to feel a little fire, like, beginning to burn inside of me.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm going up there, and I'm showing that hard work and that discipline. So, but, you know, it is, number one, bodybuilding is, like, the most metamorphic journey I've ever experienced. Prior to bodybuilding, I, too, started in COVID. So,
really?
Yes, I got really fat in COVID. My husband and I, we were, like, just donuts every night.
Oh, my God.
And obviously, like, I got fat, and then he just still looked amazing. And I was like, Well,
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm going to jump into prep. I'm just going to do it. I prepped myself with my uncle, and I just did it. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I was done. I was like, I'm not doing this again. But I qualified for nationals. So I was like, okay, I qualified. So, like, I'm going to go.
And how do you qualify?
You win first or second.
Oh, wow.
In the show.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And so I go to nationals. And nationals is huge. So there's, let's say, like 200 regional shows in a year. And then only first and second place goes to nationals.
Wow.
So there's multiple national shows, but, you know, it's the best competitors that are going to nationals. I go to nationals, and I'm still so new to it. I had just done a show in April, and then this is fast forward to December. I win. I won that. I'm like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
Was your mind blown?
Yeah,
I have like goosebumps. That's insane.
I was in shock. I was like, what? So then I was like, I guess I'm good at this, and I'm gonna like keep doing it. But the when you're in prep, it's so hard and you hate it. But then in retrospect, you're like, wow, I just did that, and I was capable. And I often think about when I'm older, I'm going to be able to look back on these years and be like, dang, those are like my bulldozing years. Like, I had goals, I set them, I stuck to them, I created discipline, I calloused my mind. And like in the midst of it, you have to have really strong whys and reasons as to why you're bodybuilding. And you kind of just like think about those all the time. But it's really hard. It's like so hard.
Can you share one of your whys?
Sure.
Like a why that is strong enough to get you through how hard that is?
Yeah.
So I can't think of one for myself.
I mean, there's little ones that you can think of, like my whole family did it. Like, if they can do it, you know, like, I can do it. But one that I always think about is, so I played soccer in college. And
fierce mindset, by the way. Soccer girls, fierce.
Just, like, aggressive.
Warriors.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was I lived college, let's just say that. Like, I partied. It wasn't, like, soccer, I was there for soccer, but I didn't give it my all, and I wasn't disciplined at all. And I prioritized things like partying and boys and just, like, wasn't focused. And I got in trouble a lot because I went to school in Oklahoma. So, like, living and growing up in LA and then going to school in Oklahoma, I'm like, there's literally nothing to do here. So I'd get in trouble all the time.
You have the opposite experience of me. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Nothing to do, very calm, hard to get in trouble if you don't know how. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I moved to LA, and it was like, you can be whatever, and nobody's going to look at you twice. Mm-hmm. And it was such a freeing and amazing experience for me. I cannot imagine going from that kind of freedom into that kind of, like, constricted. It's not a bad place. I love Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. My family's still there. But it is a very different atmosphere.
Yeah. Culture shock.
Absolutely.
It's like, what do you guys do here? What? There's nothing to do.
Well, compared to the West Coast, I get it.
Right. Yeah, so I was just getting in trouble left and right. And then I really disappointed myself a lot. And I feel like I had a lot of potential as an athlete. And I just didn't live up to my standard of potential. Like, I disappointed myself a lot in those days. So now I'm faced with, as a more mature person that doesn't have, distractions, I am presented the option to go for it and give 100%. And why not? Like, I'm going to be old one day. Like, do it. You're clearly good at it. Keep going. And then one thing that I like to say to myself is, I wonder what will happen if I don't give up. Like, what is going to happen if I don't give up? And it just, the blessings keep coming in. And it feels like God really wants me to do this and like stay natural and guide women to see their highest potential. And it's like, it's just really empowering.
I'm motivated.
You're right gonna bodybuild?
No, but I'm just like motivated, like to not have a regret.
Right. Yeah.
And to use the disappointment as a fuel to go forward and to do something with it. And also to have that foresight, that longevity of looking at, wow, I one day may not be able to do this.
Yeah.
So how lucky am I to have this moment now?
Yeah.
And that's amazing. That's really, really amazing. And it's something that I think in like the beauty world, we don't have like, really a sports mindset when it comes to presentation, because really when you get someone ready for their wedding or for a photo shoot or for whatever it is that they're going to do, you're presenting yourself, right? At whatever time you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always think of it like you would in a sport, but it's sort of beautiful to have that same motivation for whatever it is.
Yeah. For sure. I think that, like, fitness can kind of you build discipline in one area, it's going to trickle into all of the other aspects of your life.
What do they say? There's that saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, are you going to bodybuild? I'm like, I don't know. Are you going to train me?
Yeah, I would train you.
Girl, first off, I don't like to be told what to eat.
Okay.
But anyways.
You tell me. I'll just make your meal plan.
All right. Well, we kind of got into the leanness. We talked about that, like, really tough period before the competition. I think a lot of people have set the standard for themselves on social media, or depending on even the social network in real life that they're in, that they have to maintain this ultra lean, ultra fit body shape 100% of the time. And that is something that I personally, I've never been able to achieve the like super duper like skinny size 0. It's not my body, right? So part of me has never even pressured myself to do that. I just, have my own little ways of like, where do I feel best? And I try to stay there. But, can I get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love this conversation.
100% of the time.
I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah, because so many women, especially in bodybuilding, struggle with this. It's after your show, what you're supposed to do is reverse, because you've been in a deficit for so long. You need to slowly, incrementally up your calories, and that's really hard because you were just in prep for so long, and you finally have freedom of food, and it's hard to not just like go in. So the reverse process is really hard, and a lot of women hate to see the shreds leave, but the smallest version of yourself is not the happiest, the healthiest, or the sexiest, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I think that it's a little bit easier for me specifically because I hate my lean physique. Like,
You don't like the look.
I don't like the look. I don't like the way my face looks. I don't like the way my glutes feel like really small and flat. I don't like not being able to get a pump. So like when you're training, your carbs are very low, so it's hard for the muscle to actually like even get full at some parts of prep. I don't like any of that. I think bodybuilding is really beautiful for bodybuilding and callousing your mind and all of that. And the only time that you should look stage lean is on stage. I don't think that you should look stage lean any other way. But yeah, I like being like fit thick. So my preference that I feel comfortable in is probably like 25 to 30 pounds heavier than I am on stage.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. Well, so when you go on stage, you're depleted of water, you're depleted of like...
Oh, God.
So you're going to gain back like 10 pounds of water.
Oh, my God.
5 to 10 pounds of water anyway. Yeah.
Whew.
So,
girl, my mouth just got dry.
It is. That sucks. Like, I hate that part. You have to deplete your water. You can't have salt on your food a few days before your show.
Wow.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on.
Each section of this could have its own episode. It's that intense. And it's amazing.
It's insane. It's insane. Like, the things that, it's a whole world. It's like a whole little world. But, yeah, I think that a lot of this stems from childhood and how you viewed yourself as a young woman, or maybe things that have been said to you as a young woman, or even like seeing stuff on social media, or back in the day, like magazines or whatever, where people said that like that's the beautiful look or whatever, and that's not how you look, and it created some sort of insecurity, or there was a thought process to where the leanest version of yourself is the sexiest, and doesn't matter if it's healthy or happy,
because it's the sexiest to everyone else, and it's not really about you.
But for me, I'm like, no, that's not sexy,
right?
And you're not happy when you're that lean. Like, as a woman, your hormones get very messed up, and you're just like, you feel like a shell of yourself. And coming out of that is just so awesome. That you're like, oh my God, I don't even care about my abs anymore.
So do you have to callous your mind to your own perspective, I guess, to maintain balance?
I think a lot of women struggle with it, and I think guidance is really important. And again, your perception is your reality. So I think that the way that you shape it, there's like a huge aspect to, like a mental aspect to coming out of prep, where you were just really disciplined and diligent, and every day there was a purpose. So coming out of that, if you're no longer doing those elements and you're seeing your body change, I feel that people feel a certain way. They feel even worse about themselves.
Right.
That's why it's important to have good counsel and good guidance, because even if you are, letting the shreds leave or whatever, if you're still being diligent and you still have discipline in other facets or whatever, then you're still going to feel pretty good. But if you just feel lost, it creates a whole other mental component that is kind of scary, or they call it like post-show blues.
It comes back to who you have around you, right? Like in any scenario, who you have around you is going to be really important to like maintain the vision.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's really about like having that vision and where are you going, and there might be moments where you forget your why, or you get thrown for a loop, and having someone outside of that to remind you is going to be everything.
Totally.
And to understand you and have compassion and hold space for you until you can hold space for yourself again.
Totally.
That's incredible.
The amount of husband pep talks I need in prep is like crazy.
I believe that, but it's good you have it.
Oh, totally. He has picked me up off the ground sobbing and been like, okay, let it out for about like 5 more minutes, and then you're going to get up and you're going to go train, and you're going to remember who you are. Like, you need that support system.
Wow.
Like 1,000%.
Wow.
Yeah.
What would you tell someone who is on, let's say they were on Ozempic and they were like super teensy, right?
Okay,
and they came to you and they're like, they just wanted lifestyle, but they were like literally in that lean shred. This is just a hypothetical scenario. Yeah. They were in that lean shred state like 100% of the time. Like, how would you work with that?
I would first ask, are you planning to stay on Ozempic? I don't know if I would work with somebody that was taking something like Ozempic or steroids, because it's kind of like the same thing to me.
Whoa, say more about that.
Well, steroids, there's like fat burning steroids. There's all sorts of like steroids where you can build muscle, or it inhibits estrogen production, or accelerates testosterone production, or it helps you burn fat. Like there's
So this is designer. You can design it.
yeah.
Oh my god! No wonder people have thought about it.
Yeah. Oh, you thought steroids was just to like get massive?
100%.
Yeah.
I thought you got like back knee and like big muscles.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and rage. Like
yeah.
You know.
Yes, roid rage.
Yeah,
I've seen that in action in person.
I don't like it.
Oh,
but it seems part of the package.
I don't know.
Right.
I want to know too, but I don't know. I don't know all the answers to steroids, but Ozempic is like steroids in my opinion because it chemically changes you.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I would ask. And then if they said no, then I would be willing to work with them, and I would have to take them through a reverse. So it'd be the same thing. It would be slowly upping your calories, and while you are building muscle, because what is going to boost your metabolism and your longevity is building muscle. So we're going to build muscle slowly. We're going to make sure that you're not gaining too much excess body fat at a very rapid rate. And then we can assess. We can reassess after that. It's all about, like, one-on-one coaching is all about taking that person and realizing that that person is unique and their process is unique, and you have to take check-in photos. Like, they're going to be sending me photos of their physique, and then you kind of just, like, take it week by week, you know? I don't often like to... I like to give somebody like a timeline or like a big picture, but we're going to focus on the next step and not the whole staircase, because that feels a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Now, as someone who's been an athlete their entire life, what does beauty mean to you?
What does beauty mean to me? I think, like, I'm just going to say the first thing that came to mind. Authenticity is the most beautiful thing, or I guess authentic is the most beautiful thing that you can be.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love that answer a lot.
Thank you.
There's a question I ask my guests at the end of each episode, which is, did you grow up with a beauty myth? And a beauty myth is something that you believed, like, was the most beautiful thing, or something that was not beautiful, but you found out later that it wasn't true. So, for example, we've talked a lot about, like, body composition. I think most people have a beauty myth that there's one size that is beautiful, right? Like, thinness is beautiful. And you kind of grow up to find, like, that's not necessarily true, right? There's, like, so many variations.
Yeah. Yeah, I have, like, really massive quads, and I was made fun of for them my whole life, and my mom would always tell me, like, Brooke, these are what make you fast, these are what make you strong, and I hated them when I was younger, but then now I love them. Like, how can I actually get bigger quads? That's what I want to do. But my mom's, the way that she would talk to me about that really helped me shape my perspective on beauty, but with my legs. Because, yeah, I was, like, called boy legs, or just bullied.
Kids are crazy.
Kids are crazy.
But I'm glad that we have the chance to change our mind about something, you know, and to realize we might even believe things now that are mythological.
Yeah.
And making our choices about how we want to look should be based on something other than, big social standards, social media, things that we haven't examined about ourselves. Like, it's probably a good idea to examine it. And it sounds like with what you do, because it is so trying, that you have to examine it if you want to go about it in a way that feels wholesome to who you are. Like, it feels like you are intact during the process.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to look at yourself as like a whole.
Yeah.
Not just, yeah, we can get very kind of obsessive maybe on
Or,
certain
you know,
things.
like not understanding, like, why are we driven by, you know, self-hate, what you mentioned, the self-hatred, or driven by the anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love that that is part of that holistic approach, is like you're not moving out of something that isn't examined.
Right.
Yeah. Beautiful. Brooke, thank you so much for being here on the podcast today. I would love to have you back.
Oh, I love these conversations. So I'm like, anytime.
Yes, we'll have you anytime, darling. Where can the people find you?
I'm on Instagram. So Brooke Hackett _Fitspo. I'm recently a Hackett. My maiden name is Hazard, so it's new. I just got married in May, so I'm like,
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm getting used to saying Hackett. And that is the same across the board on TikTok and on YouTube. I just started YouTube also.
Fantastic. You're a wonderful resource for fitness, anything and everything. This has been another episode. Thank you guys for joining us on the Beauty Ritual podcast. Please subscribe. It means a lot. Hit the follow button, you know, keep up to date and find out what we're going to be talking about next. It could be anything and everything. So, love ya, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.